There are afternoons when you stand by the window not waiting for anyone, not looking at anything in particular, just because your eyes are tired of looking inward. You hear the leaves brushing against each other in the wind, the ticking of a clock in the next room, and the faint hum of the refrigerator. And then you realize it's been a long time since you've heard someone call your name. Living alone is something many once wished for: freedom, peace, and no disturbances. But after a certain age, that freedom begins to carry the scent of emptiness. It's not as loud as loss, not as dramatic as goodbyes. It's quiet like an old coat, warm at first, but colder with time. Loneliness is when a day feels long, not because of the hours, but because there's no one to make that time worth waiting for. A chair left empty for years becomes just another piece of furniture. And a person who goes too long without being asked how they are will begin to believe they no longer matter to anyone. I don't say this to make you sad. I say it because I know you're not the only one who feels this way. Many others do too. They just don't talk about it because they've grown used to carrying things on their own. They carried their families. They endured pain without complaint. They were the last to go to bed every night. And now when everything is quiet, they stay quiet too. But that silence, if it lasts too long, becomes a room no one dares to knock on. I once heard an old man say, "The hardest part isn't living alone. It's living long enough that no one remembers your birthday anymore. We think we're strong until no one calls. No one asks, 'Did you sleep well?' No one texts, 'I miss you.' And when that repeats often enough, you begin to question your presence in this world. But I want you to know this: you still matter. Even if you no longer work, even if your days are quiet, even if gray hair and wrinkled skin make you feel like you're just what's left over, your presence still holds meaning." I once saw an elderly woman cry just from a single hug, not out of sadness, but because the last time someone touched her was 7 years ago when her husband passed. You know, human skin needs to be touched to stay alive, just like plants need light to grow. No one truly grows old just because of age. People grow old when no one needs their tenderness anymore. Many people live alone because of circumstances, but no one wants to live a life where no one listens. When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you think about? Is it food, tasks to do? Or simply, does anyone need me today? I'm not asking for an answer. I'm asking to stir up a feeling you once knew so well, the feeling of being wanted. When you were younger, you stepped outside and someone was always calling, texting, and needing you. Now you open the door and what you see is stillness. Even if it's your home, even if it's the life you built. There's something strange about growing old. The more time we have, the fewer people we see. The more we long for presence, the less we dare to reach out. Because we don't want to be a bother. Because we think they're probably busy. But my friend, everyone's busy. What matters is having someone who dares to knock. Someone who dares to send the first message. Someone who dares to say, "I miss you." I once taught a group of older adults how to send text messages. One elderly lady sent her first message to her son, just 3 words. "You still there?" That simple question, seemingly naive, made her son drive over 40 miles to see her that very day. Do you see some connections are still waiting to be awakened? We just haven't dared to try. I'm not telling you this to lecture. I'm telling you because I know you're still hoping for something. Even something small, like a cup of tea shared with someone, a quiet morning with someone to sigh beside you, an afternoon with someone asking, "Have you eaten yet?" That's why I made this video. Not to tell you that you need to change, but to let you know you are worthy of being remembered. And if you stay until the end of this video, I'll share something very small, a single act that helped one elderly person return to life after nearly a decade of shutting themselves off. No medication, no therapy, no technology, just something you can begin today. If you've ever lived alone and sometimes felt an emptiness in your heart, leave a number. 1. If you're thinking about your parents or grandparents, leave a 0. Not for statistics, but so we, those quietly walking alongside each other, know we are not alone. If you find this meaningful, please subscribe. Not because I need the numbers, but because maybe one day, when you need a gentle voice, a soft knock on your heart, this video will arrive just in time. Old age is not the final chapter. It's a new one where you get to choose how deeply you live and how tenderly you connect with others and with yourself. Old age is not the final chapter. It's a new one where you no longer need to rush, No longer need to compete, need to prove anything. You just need to live deeply enough to realize your presence is still a precious gift to this world. And if what I've just shared has touched you or reminded you of someone living alone, please click subscribe. I'm truly grateful for that. And with every new day, you'll have one more companion, one more gentle voice by your side, one short video warm enough to remind you today you are not alone. Let this channel be the place you return to whenever your heart feels heavy, because no one should have to live alone, not just in a house, but in their own heart. Do you know what makes loneliness in old age especially painful? It's not the lack of people around. It's the creeping belief that your emotions no longer matter. When you were young, you could say things like, "I feel sad. I need to hear someone's voice. I miss a hug." But after a certain age, such words become harder to say, partly out of shyness, partly because you've been strong for too long, and partly because you think no one wants to hear those things from an old person. So instead of speaking, you go silent. Instead of reaching out, you wait. You wait for a message, a phone call, a simple, "How are you?" But day after day, when nothing comes, you start whispering to yourself, "It's okay. Maybe I'm not that needed anymore." The danger doesn't lie in the silence of others. It lies in the moment you start convincing yourself that feeling lonely is just how it's supposed to be. And just like that, your loneliness is no longer caused by your situation. It becomes the room you choose to live in every single day. I once spent hours sitting with a 78-year-old woman. She said, "When I was younger, I could be lonely sometimes, but I always knew what I was waiting for. Now I wake up each morning, and I'm just waiting for night to fall again." It sounds ordinary, but it hurts, because a day with no one waiting for you, no one hoping you'll wake up, no one to tell even the smallest thing to, is a day that passes without a trace. There's a strange paradox about growing old. The older you get, the more time you have, and yet the fewer people you get to see, the more you need to share. The fewer people there are to share it with. Many elders live surrounded by children, neighbors, and the noise of the city, yet feel as if they're standing outside the life they once called their own. The elderly aren't lonely because no one is around. They're lonely because there's no one left to truly connect with. Connection isn't small talk. It's a grateful glance, a heartfelt question, a gentle touch on the shoulder, a quiet reassurance that you're still part of this world. I once saw an elderly woman tear up because a young volunteer held her hand throughout her physical therapy session. She said, "You don't know this, but the last time someone held my hand was the day my husband died." We don't lack people, we lack connection. We lack moments of real listening. And in old age, those moments matter more than ever. Someone once told me, loneliness is when you start missing even the conversations you once thought were ordinary. That's when you realize the smallest things, when lost, leave the biggest holes. And then to protect yourself from more hurt, you begin doing everything alone. Eating alone, going to the doctor alone, calling a cab, picking up medication, watching TV alone. Alone, 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 until you can't even remember the last time you needed someone. But does that make you stronger, or has it just made you forget that you still have the right to be vulnerable? The right to need someone, the right to ask, "Did you remember to call Grandma today?" The chill of old age doesn't come from the weather. It comes from living in a warm world where no one sees that you're shivering. So what in the end is the nature of loneliness? It's not about how many people are around you, it's about how many of them truly see you. It doesn't come from living alone, it comes from believing that even if you lived with someone, nothing would change. True loneliness is when you lose the feeling of being needed. You can sit beside your children and grandchildren, but no one asks for your opinion. You can eat with family, but no one waits for you to speak. You're still alive, but no one wants to hear your stories anymore. It's not because they're unkind. It's because life sweeps them up, and you, if you don't speak up, will be left behind. Not because they meant to forget you, but because you've been silent for too long. But dear friend, you can still speak up. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be demanding. Sometimes all it takes is a gentle sentence. "Today I feel a little empty inside. Would you sit with me for a while?" We don't need to change the world. We just need to gently remind one another in the simplest, most human way that we're still here, still loving, and still worthy of love. Don't let loneliness become a habit. Don't let prolonged silence turn you into a shadow inside your own life. because you weren't born to live that way. You were born to feel, connect, give, and receive small, simple things that warm the heart more than anything else. In the next part, I'll share with you some deeply practical ways, simple, manageable, and full of humanity, for you to begin reconnecting the emotional threads time may have faded. You don't have to wait for others to change. You just need to be willing to open your heart first, because sometimes all it takes is for you to make that call, and the whole world can feel warmer again. Have you ever seen a flower wither not because it lacks soil or sunlight, but simply because no one watered it anymore? Humans are the same. Without connection, we begin to fade from the smallest places inside ourselves. Loneliness isn't just sadness, it's an illness. It's not something you can treat with prescriptions, but it has a silent power to break you down more than any known virus. When you feel lonely for too long, your body doesn't just feel sad, it starts to react. Your heart rate increases, your blood pressure rises, your immune system weakens, and your memory begins to blur like headlights through a rainy window. Many people think I'm just a little down, it'll pass. But in fact, studies from Harvard and the CDC have proven prolonged social isolation significantly increases the risk of stroke, heart disease, dementia, depression, and even early death by up to 26%. That's the same health risk as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. You can eat well, exercise, stay hydrated, but if your heart feels empty, none of those things will keep you going for long. I've met people who lived very healthy lives but still fell ill, not because they did anything wrong, but because they had lived too long without anyone truly touching them, without anyone checking in, without anyone listening to what they carried inside. The human body doesn't just need food, it needs presence. It needs sincere attention. It needs the quiet assurance that I still matter. I am still needed. I once cared for an elderly woman, nearly 90 years old. Her health was stable. However, she suffered from chronic insomnia. There was no clear medical reason. We tried everything. In the end, what worked was something incredibly simple. Each night, someone would sit by her, hold her hand, and say, "I'm here. You can sleep now." A few days later, she was sleeping soundly like a child. She smiled and said, "It's been so long since someone made me feel safe enough to close my eyes." You see, sometimes we don't need medicine. We just need a person. The scariest thing about loneliness is that it doesn't scream. It slips quietly into your routines. It makes you eat less, sleep lighter, lose interest in the things you once loved. One day you don't feel like going out. Then the next you don't bother changing clothes. Then one morning you open your eyes shut and don't see any reason to get out of bed. That's when loneliness stops being a feeling and becomes a biological state. You are not weak for feeling this way. You are simply human. And humans, no matter how strong, need to be heard, seen, touched. That's not selfish. That's survival. Those who've lived long enough understand this. The deepest pain isn't physical. It's the feeling of being forgotten. An old man once told me, "What I fear most is that, when I go, no one will know to grieve." He said it gently like a breeze, but it sent chills through me. You know, living long doesn't always mean living deeply. If every day passes just waiting for sleep, and even sleep doesn't bring peace, that's not life. That's just survival. And loneliness is what makes survival feel darker than any illness ever could. It takes away your appetite. It dims your desire to care for your body. You stop scheduling health checkups because you think, why try to get better if no one's waiting for me to be well? When no one hopes for your recovery, you stop trying. I'm not sharing this to make you sad. I'm sharing it so you can recognize something important. If you find yourself withdrawing, spending less time at the window, less time at the table, less time even in the calls you used to make without thinking, then stop. Look that truth in the eye. Not to despair, but to remember it can still be changed. Old age is the stage of life when you have the right to choose what truly makes life worth living. And loneliness, no matter how long it stayed, cannot hold you back if you truly want to step out of it. A phone call, a handwritten letter, a simple message. How are you? A brave admission I feel myself drifting away from everything. You don't need 10 people to understand you. You just need one person to truly see you. And sometimes to find that person, you only need to start with yourself. Open your heart first, reach out first, share first. Send out a little light because true light always finds its way back to where it came from. If you're still here, I know you don't just want to listen. You want to live differently. And that's why in the next part, I'll share with you 7 small but profound ways you can start using today to stay connected to your emotions, to others, and to the human part of yourself that still wants to feel, give, and belong. You don't need to leave your home. You don't need to be tech savvy. All you need is a heart that still wants to love. And that's enough. Are you ready? Someone once asked me, how do I stop feeling lonely every morning when I wake up? I didn't have a grand answer. I simply said, start with one small thing. Something that reminds you you're still living in this world. You don't have to change your whole life. You just need to change how you step into the day. I once met an elderly man who every morning sent the same message to an old friend, just 2 words. Still well. One day I asked, what if they never reply? He smiled and said, then at least I'm someone who still remembers them. And just that thought makes me feel alive. Here's the first thing I want to share with you. 1. Be the one who reaches out first. Call first. Text first. If you think of someone, say it. Don't wait for them to ask. Don't assume you're a bother. Everyone needs to be remembered. And everyone has the power to bring warmth to another person's life with just a message or a short call. It doesn't need to be long. It just needs to be sincere. A simple check-in might not change the world, but it could change someone's cold afternoon, and sometimes it could change your own. I know many people feel hesitant about joining senior clubs, community groups, or online book circles. They think I'm too old, how can I fit in? But I want you to try again, just once. You don't need to speak. You don't need to stand out. You just need to show up. Being present in a space where others are is the first step to pulling yourself out of that quiet place. Even just sitting there, seeing other faces, hearing other voices, it's enough to warm your heart little by little. An 80-year-old woman once told me I join a weekly book club, even though my eyes can't read anymore. I just sit and listen. But each time I feel like I'm still part of something. That's what loneliness takes from you, the feeling that you still belong. And that's something you can take back. 3. Do something for someone else, just something small, but do it regularly. When you feel that you can still help someone, you stop feeling like an extra piece. You can fold blankets for a nearby nursing home, handwrite a letter to a cancer patient, send a small gift to a neighbor older than you. You know what? When you're the one bringing warmth, you're the one who feels warm first. There was a man in Florida who wrote short daily blessings and sent them to 3 strangers online. One morning he simply typed, wishing you a peaceful day. A week later, a stranger replied, I had been planning to end my life, but your message made me pause, and eventually I found a reason to stay. He was stunned. Then he told me I never imagined just a few words could save someone's whole life. You see, sometimes connection doesn't come from the receiving end. It comes from the one who reaches out. 4. Keep a gratitude journal, just one thing a day. This is a habit I recommend to every senior I meet, because when you start noticing the good, you start remembering that you still have reasons to live kindly. Write just 1 line a day. Today I am grateful for. It could be your morning tea, a lovely ray of sunlight, a pleasant breeze, a call from your child, a dreamless sleep. We're not short on things to be thankful for. We just tend to forget. Gratitude brings you back to yourself. And when you return to yourself, you'll start to feel whole again, even if no one else is around. 5. Pass on something you used to love doing. Did you once love to cook, sew, garden, play, music, teach? Try teaching it to someone, maybe a grandchild, a young neighbor, or even a stranger online. When you share something you once loved, you awaken the light inside yourself. One elderly woman taught flower arranging to a group of students via Zoom once a week. After 3 months, she wrote to me, for the first time in 5 years, I feel like I'm still a part of someone's future. You don't have to be an expert. You just need to be someone who once loved something deeply enough to pass it on with kindness. 6. Reconnect with nature, with trees, with soil, with wind. There are days when people might not be ready to listen to you, but trees will. Soil will. The wind always will. Try growing a small plant, tending a pot of herbs, water it, Watch it grow. When you care for something, you're quietly saying to yourself, I still have something to love. I know an old man who cared for the same patch of flowers for 8 years because they were his late wife's favorite. He watered them every morning, spoke to them. He said she may be gone, but the love I had for her, it still blooms every morning. That's not just connection, that's memory living again in the gentlest form. 7. Create a small ritual, something your heart can return to. Brew tea every Saturday. Light a candle each night. Walk around the block each morning. Call an old friend once a month. Send a handwritten letter each season. Rituals, no matter how small, are your way of saying to time, I'm still here. I'm still living with intention. One elderly woman told me, every morning I sit by the window, place my hand over my heart and ask, what do you want today? That's all. But she never felt abandoned again because she chose to live with herself, not just drift through the day. These 7 things, you don't have to do them all at once. Just choose the one that feels closest to you and begin. Gently, simply, but sincerely. Because connection doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be real. Loneliness is not destiny. It's just a signal, an invitation for you to return to the world. And sometimes returning doesn't mean going far. It means doing one small thing to remind yourself that you're still here and that something beautiful is still waiting for you to give it. Have you ever sat quietly alone and wondered, if I'm still living like this a few years from now, will I be happy? That's not a sad question, it's an honest one. Because old age doesn't last forever, and with every passing year, we need to know how we are living. Not just say we exist because we've added another birthday. I once asked a woman in her 80s, what do you wish for in the years you have left? She answered after a long pause, I just wish that every morning I wake up, someone is waiting for me. That answer silenced me because it was so simple. Not about money, not about health, not about anything grand. Just a feeling that her waking up still meant something. And I realized this, what withers the elderly, is not an illness, but the absence of a reason to keep living. If you're reading these words, I believe that part of your heart still longs to connect. Part of you still wants to be called by name, to be listened to be reminded that your presence matters. So let's imagine for a moment, a morning in the future. You wake up, the phone rings. It's a friend calling just to ask, isn't the sky beautiful today? You get up, make a pot of tea, open the window, and sunlight filters through the curtain, gentle like a hand on your cheek. You pick up your little journal and write a few lines of gratitude, because yesterday someone sent you a handwritten note. Just a few kind words to ask how you're doing. You check your mailbox. There's an invitation. The Poetry Club for Seniors is meeting again this afternoon. You put on your coat. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Because you have somewhere to go. Someone to talk to, something to share, and someone to listen to. Life doesn't have to change. Just let your heart shift direction just a little, and everything will start to feel different. It's still you, still the same morning, but now no one calls, no one sends anything. No reason to get dressed, no reason to get out of bed. Each day blurs into the next, so much so that you can't even remember what day it is. You eat alone, sip tea alone, sit by the window but no longer waiting for anything. Every footstep becomes a quiet reminder that someone used to walk beside you, but now it's just you and the ticking of the clock on the wall. 2 paths, 2 endings. One future where someone waits for you, another where you wait only for yourself. The question is, which future will you choose? You can't control time, but you can control how you step into it. You don't have to wait for someone to rescue you from loneliness. You can rescue yourself by opening your heart, taking small actions, reaching out again. Choosing a future without loneliness doesn't require a grand promise. It begins with the smallest of things, a habit of staying in touch, a small group you join, a story you share, a kind act you repeat. Old age is not the end. It's an open space, a season where you have full permission to live slower, live deeper life, more kindly, and most importantly, to live more meaningfully than ever before. I won't promise you a life that's always full of noise and cheer, but I can promise this. If you begin today, if you choose connection, you will grow older with warmth, with glances that see you, with voices that call you, and in the hearts of those around you. You don't need many people, you just need the right one at the right moment. And sometimes, to have that, you simply have to be the one who goes first, because everyone wants to be called by name, but sometimes you have to be the one brave enough to call out first. You're not too old to start this. You're just too unsure to believe that you still can, and you know what the future comes quickly. So if you want it to be different, now is the time. Do you remember at the beginning of this video, I promised to share something small, just a tiny thing that changed the way a woman in her 70s stepped out of 8 long years of quiet isolation? Well, now it's time. That secret wasn't some special technique. It wasn't a healing book. It wasn't an expensive therapy. It was handwritten letters. Sounds old-fashioned, doesn't it? But because it's old, it reaches places technology never could. The woman, let's call her Louise, had lived alone for nearly a decade. She had children. She had grandchildren. But everyone was busy. And year after year, she grew used to the silence. She got used to no one asking how she was. So much so that she no longer wanted to go out. I no longer wanted to call anyone. Then one day she came across a movement called Letters of Life. It encouraged older adults to write handwritten letters to strangers. No replies expected, just sharing a bit of life. At first, she only wrote a few lines, "It rained today, but I made myself a good pot of tea." Then she added, "I used to love autumn, because that's when the falling leaves reminded me it's okay to gently let go of old things." She didn't sign with her real name. She signed it with the nickname her late husband used to call her Sonny. She wrote 1 letter a week. Sometimes she mailed them to nursing homes. Sometimes she left them in a community library sharing box. Sometimes she slipped one into a neighbor's mailbox with a note. "If you're feeling a little sad today, I hope this helps ease it." And then something strange happened. Every time she wrote, she felt lighter, as if with each letter she wasn't the forgotten one anymore. She was the one giving something gentle to the world. After 3 months, someone wrote back. An elderly man who lived just 2 blocks away. He wrote, "I don't know who you are, but your letter came on the same day I lost my wife." And the line, "Falling leaves don't make autumn sadder. They just make it more real," made me cry. From that day on, they became pen pals. No phone calls, no visits, just letters. But in every line, in every stroke of the pen, they saw themselves again, not just as elderly, but as alive. I'm not sharing this story to convince you to write letters. I'm sharing it to tell you this. Sometimes to reconnect with life, you don't need someone to call you first. You just need to write first. Write what you feel, even if you never send it. Write what you want to say, even if no one replies. Because the magic of words is this. When you're honest with your own heart, you've already broken through the thickest layer of loneliness, the one you unknowingly built over the years. You can place a small notebook beside your tea. Write a few lines each morning. Write to someone from the past. Write to yourself. Write to a stranger you've never met. Just the act of writing means you've begun to stitch a thread back to the world. Your words don't have to be beautiful. You don't need a grand story. If you can still feel, you're still alive. And being alive isn't just about breathing. It's about touching someone, even through the smallest, softest, most sincere things. Your first letter could begin like this. "I've been quiet for a long time, but today I want to hear my heart again." And if you don't know who to write to, start with the one person who used to know you best. You. If you've made it all the way here, I believe it's not because you had spare time, but because some small part of you, quiet as it may be, has been looking for something. Maybe it's understanding. Maybe it's a soft voice from a stranger. Maybe you just want to know if you're truly alone. And if you've ever asked, "Does anyone understand me?" I want to say this to you slowly and gently. I understand you. I don't live in your home. I haven't walked through the days you've endured. I don't know how deep your losses run, but I know what it feels like to wake up and hope today might feel a little different. I know what it's like to sit at a table filled with the dishes you once loved and not taste a thing because there's no one there to say the first word. I know the feeling of passing an entire day with no one asking. No one is calling, no one remembers. But I also know this. You're still here. You're still alive. You're still searching for a connection, and you still have the power to begin again, starting from this very moment. You can be the one who reaches out first, the one who says the first word, the one who starts a small ritual in your quiet room. And the moment you begin, connection will begin finding its way back to you. Please remember this. You're not too old to be loved. You're not too late to still matter. And you're not too small to make a difference, even if it's just for one person. If today your heart feels even a little bit more at ease, I'm happy for you. If you're thinking about your parents or grandparents, please leave a 0. If you've ever lived alone and sometimes felt like you were fading like a shadow, please leave a 1. No need to say anything more. Just leave a number, because somewhere someone might see it and feel a little less alone too. And if you found meaning in this, please don't forget to hit subscribe. Because one day if your heart feels heavy, if the night feels longer than usual, the next video might reach you in time, like a gentle reminder. You are not forgotten, and someone is still thinking of you. We don't need many people to fill our lives. We just need one other heartbeat willing to listen. If you're still here, then I'm still here. Thank you for staying.